First we had Godzilla x Kong the New Empire, then Monkey Man, and now Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. 2024 is officially the year of monkeys. Hey movie buffs, I'm Jack Benner and welcome to my review of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is the newest film in the long-going Planet of the Apes franchise, as well as the fourth film in the Planet of the Apes reboot franchise. Set 300 years after the events of War for the Planet of the Apes, it follows a young ape named Noah who embarks on a journey where he meets a human woman that leads him to question what he's been taught about the past and what's about to come for the future. Now, before we get into my thoughts on Kingdom, I would like to give you my thoughts on Rise, Dawn, and War. First, starting off in 2011, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I remember when I first saw the trailer for this, I was thinking, do we really need a Planet of the Apes prequel? Then I saw it in theaters. This movie surprised me, and I absolutely loved it. And over 10 years later, to which I can't believe it's been that long, but it still holds up. From the groundbreaking CGI with motion capture, a compelling story, terrific action, I love the Golden Gate sequence, and most of all, Andy Serkis as Caesar is phenomenal. And I think it's his best motion capture role since Gollum, and I do love him as King Kong as well. And that scene, when Caesar first spoke, no! You could hear a pin drop, I will never forget when I first saw that scene in theaters back then. And if there's one little question I want to ask, how did Hugo win visual effects over Rise of the Planet of the Apes at the 2012 Oscars? Now, I absolutely love Hugo. It had good effects, but in terms of what visual effects were more groundbreaking and revolutionary, Rise of the Planet of the Apes deserved that award. Everything that Weta Digital, who also did Avatar, for what they accomplished here was just marvelous. This was an excellent start to the trilogy and one of my favorite films of 2011, so I would give Rise of the Planet of the Apes an A. And then in 2014, we got Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Everything on not only how to make an incredible blockbuster sequel, but an incredible sequel in every way. Not just an improvement over Rise, but it's a deep and profound film that continues its story phenomenally. The visuals are even more incredible and jaw-dropping. I do think Interstellar is a visually stunning film, but I think this deserved the Oscar for visual effects that year. Koba is both a menacing villain, but also a compelling villain to where you understand his motivations. And Andy Serkis is still phenomenal. One of my favorite films of 2014 and one of the best blockbusters ever made. A+. And now, the best one. In 2017, War for the Planet of the Apes. Not only my favorite of the trilogy, but this is my favorite Planet of the Apes movie by far. An outstanding conclusion that beautifully gives closure to Caesar's story. It is one of my favorite Michael Giacchino scores, one of his best since Up. The visual effects continue to reach stellar new heights, and one of my most difficult dilemmas, choosing between that for the Oscar or Blade Runner 2049. Damn you, options! And again, I keep saying, Andy Serkis might have given my favorite motion capture performance in any movie. He is the king of motion capture. And if I want to ask one little question, how in the hell does Andy Serkis not have an Oscar nomination yet already? It's deep, emotional, tragic. This is one of my top 5 favorite films of 2017 up there with Blade Runner 2049, Dunkirk, and Logan. Those are like my S-tier films of 2017 along with Coco, Baby Driver, Get Out. A freaking plus. Now, when I heard 20th Century Studio was planning a new continuation of the Planet of the Apes franchise after Caesar's story concluded, I was skeptical if a new story in Planet of the Apes was even necessary. And even with a new director, Wes Ball, who directed the Maze Runner movies, was involved, I was also a little skeptical after how much I loved what Matt Reeves brought to the table with Dawn and War. And when I saw concept art for this film, my curiosity started to increase and wanted to see a trailer. And when the first trailer came out, my skepticism started to decrease with how promising it looked, and I just thought, okay, this is giving me faith that this is in good hands. And with that teaser trailer and the second trailer, it was one of my most anticipated films of the year. Even if I had a feeling it wouldn't top or come close to Rise, Dawn, or War, all I was hoping for with Kingdom to be a great standalone sequel and a worthy continuation. And I actually saw Kingdom Planet of the Apes at an early screening on Wednesday night. Thank you to my local AMC theaters for the early screening. I went into it optimistic, and here are my thoughts. While I don't think it's as good as Rise, Dawn, or War, but I can confirm Kingdom Planet of the Apes is a really good and worthy continuation of the Planet of the Apes franchise. Let's start with the pros. Right away, from a visual and technical standpoint, this film is breathtaking, and these films visually continue to reach amazing new heights. I'm just still in awe from the stunning attention to detail on the apes with the fur, their skin, the movements, featuring a terrific mix of motion capture, CGI, on-set locations, which Wes Ball recently did confirm that this film was shot on set locations, and getting the scope of everything is all glorious. I commend every single VFX artist who worked on this movie for their hard work and dedication for these incredible effects. What I love about each new installment since Rise was how they continue to up their game and take it to the next level without becoming stale. And there is not a single VFX shot that took me out in the movie. Everything looked amazing. And there's even one effect during the climax of this movie that had my jaw drop and wondering, how were they able to pull that off? Seriously. And it will absolutely be a lock for an Oscar nomination for visual effects. Although I still think Dune 2 is going to win in that category, and I think during award season, Dune 2 is going to win visual effects categories in a clean sweep, but this would be a very deserving nomination. After being skeptical without Matt Reeves, and I did want to get a first impression of how Wes Ball would handle this franchise, and now having seen it, I think this franchise is in good hands under Wes Ball's direction. For action-wise, Ball does an excellent job crafting intense and thrilling action scenes that are very well shot without using shaky cam. And the cinematography in this movie is amazing. There are so many great shots that I'm thinking of. And I love the gritty, abandoned look. Took what he did with the Maze Runner movies and applied it to here greatly. But most of all, with the story here. What's particularly admirable about the story here is that it succeeded at what a good legacy sequel should do. Establishing what came before with Caesar's legacy, while focusing on telling a new and interesting story. And one of the more interesting parts about this movie with Caesar's legacy was seeing how the different sides would handle his teachings, with how they use it for good, and the other side would use it for evil and their wrongdoings. And what's become one of my favorite parts about the rebooted Planet of the Apes movies is that they never feel spectacle over substance. They give you characters that are interesting and sympathetic first, before the action scenes begin they'll actually get you to care about them, so that nothing feels hollow or surface level, and actually giving great depth to the story. And another thing what makes this movie work, the performances from the cast are terrific. Starting with our new main character, Owen Teague as Noah. Now following up to Andy Serkis as Caesar was certainly no easy task, but Noah is a great protagonist to get behind here. I was really invested from this character from the start with his journey and confliction and embarking on his quest for redemption. Owen Teague greatly gives a lot to this role with the amount of heart he brought to it, sympathy, and excellently using his eyes and facial expressions to sell it. And now having seen Kingdom, I'm definitely on board with this character and want to see his story continue. And Freya Allen is great as May. I like seeing how she's different than most humans with her intelligence and survival skills, and she was a character I was interested in and want to learn more about her. And if there's one big scene stealer in the supporting cast, it would definitely be Kevin Durand as Proximus Caesar. Now, having recently seen this actor in Abigail, which fun vampire movie by the way, note to self, gotta get my review out for that. With this and Abigail, he's having a great year so far. I would say Kobo was a much stronger villain. He's definitely my favorite Planet of the Apes villain, but Proximus Caesar definitely makes for a great villain. Just from the first time we've seen him with his menacing presence and charisma, while seeing where he's coming from with his ideologies for evolution, he definitely made for a strong villain in terms of motivation, presence, and combat. And I would also like to mention another secondary villain, this gorilla, who was such a badass and imposing villain. And another one of my favorite new characters in this movie was Raka, this orangutan, who Noah first starts to meet, and Raka becomes this mentor about Caesar's legacy. And I thought he was such a great character with a mix of wisdom and welcome addition of humor. And I don't want to spoil anything since this movie just came out, but for the ending and what it teased, it definitely had me intrigued for the future. Definitely want to see more of this continuation, the questions it asks. Sadly, I do have some cons with this movie. I will get to those right now. First, probably my biggest issue with Kingdom is the pacing issues. This is the longest film in the Planet of the Apes franchise at 2 hours and 25 minutes. And during the second act of this movie, I really did feel that runtime. Now, I do appreciate making every scene important. Now, it may seem like exposition scenes that kind of drag the runtime. They're really not. They do serve importance. But at the same time, there were a few parts during the second act of this movie where it does drag a little bit, where I felt like the pacing could have been much tighter. Second, as much as I love Proxima Caesar in this movie, I do wish we had more screen time with him, because I found him to be such a great and interesting villain, and I do wish his motivation could have been explored a bit more. I felt like we could have learned a bit more about him. I feel like there would be more potential for a prequel with this character, which I would be very interested in seeing. And lastly, compared to Rise, Dawn, and War, I didn't find this film quite as emotionally impactful as those other films. I felt like they were much stronger in terms of emotion and themes. To sum up, while I don't think it's on the same level as its predecessors and does suffer from pacing issues, Kingdom of Planet of the Apes is a worthwhile, engaging, and satisfying continuation. Visually astounding, terrific performances, intense action, and engaging story. I would definitely recommend this movie to you if you loved Rise, Dawn, and War for Planet of the Apes, or if you're just a huge Planet of the Apes fan. Definitely go out and see this movie. However, if you have not seen Rise, Dawn, or War for the Planet of the Apes, I definitely recommend you watch those movies before you watch this one. Even though Kingdom is more of a standalone sequel, it does have a lot focusing on Caesar's legacy, so you should definitely watch those 3 movies beforehand to learn about Caesar's story. And after this film, if Les Ball is going to direct the next film with these characters, I'm on board for what he has in store for the next one. And now to grade it, I'm going to give Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes 4 stars out of 5, a B+. Both this and The Fall Guy started the summer strong, 2 good movies, so I'm definitely confident we're in for a good summer movie season. So definitely go out and see Kingdom Planet of the Apes this weekend as well. See it on the biggest screen as possible, because a visually stunning movie like this deserves to be seen on the biggest screen. So I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes if you've seen it? Do you agree? Disagree with my review? Or if you haven't seen it, are you interested in seeing the film or not? Let me know down below. Did you enjoy hearing my thoughts on this movie and want to see more reviews like this in the future? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here, and don't forget that notification bell for my next upload in the future. My social media links are in the description down below. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you want to see any of my written reviews, I do have a Letterboxd account, so if you'd like to follow me there. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner, and look forward to another movie review.